playing the blame game once again, this time over the Russian uranium deal.
I would say it's the same baloney they've been peddling for years, and there's been no credible evidence by anyone. Trump and his allies, including Fox News, are really experts at distraction and diversion.
You say Fox News. What about the other news outlets? Since the story broke on Tuesday, ABC, CBS, and NBC have spent a total of, get to, 0 minutes covering the deal.
That's a good graphic right there, just 0. Here to react is Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center. Dan, thanks for joining us. So, Fox has been willing to cover a story that broke about what happened in 2010 when she was the Secretary of State, which has ties potentially to the Clinton Foundation and money and what looked like shady dealings. No one else will touch it. Why is that?
Well, you can tell this is a uranium scandal because the media are treating it like it's radioactive. They don't want to touch it. As you said, an inconvenient narrative. That's an understatement. So what you've got is the Hill breaks his story talking about millions of dollars potentially going to the Clinton Foundation. You've got a $500,000. I mean, I can't even imagine a $500,000 speaking deal for former President Bill Clinton in Russia. This is the story the media don't want to touch because it defies what they want to talk about.
Yeah, you say it defies what they want to talk about, but at the same point that the same people in politics are there now that are investigating the Russian ties with what they say is the administration. And so why won't they do the same thing to do is at least investigate? Just talk about it. We're not saying that it's guilt by association. We're just saying maybe you take a look at it.
Well, you look at the media coverage of Russia. Through summer, ABC, CBS, and NBC evening news shows did 415 minutes on the Russia scandal, but 94% of it was negative. And so if you start throwing in things that would make Trump look good, because basically we finally got, we can point fingers at one of the presidential candidates linked to Russia scandal. It's not Trump, it's Hillary, and they don't want to talk about that.
Well, to your point, Politico did a poll, and people wonder why there's such an erosion of trust of the media, and President Trump calls it the fake news media. It's because people feel like it's being made up. Look at this poll from Politico. Do major news outlets fabricate stories about President Trump? 46% of Americans believe they do. You add that to the unsure.
Of 17%.
That's over 50%, almost 60% of Americans saying my news might be fake.
Well, ultimately, you look at the problem isn't just the made-up stories, like the Washington Post story about Russia hacking the power grid. It's not just stories like that.
Yeah.
It is the problem of omission,
the
stories like this that
You're
they won't cover.
Right. Dan Gaynor, thanks a lot. Appreciate your expertise.
Now we're going to pull an old chestnut out of the fire. Hillary Clinton still has an email problem. The latest revelation concerns her assistant, Huma Abedin. Her husband, Anthony Weiner. He had 2,800 emails on his computer that came from Huma Abedin, Hillary's assistant. Round and round it goes. Who better to pass judgment than Judge Andrew Napolitano? Give me the big picture, the significance, please.
The significance is an FBI acknowledgement that Huma Abedin, Mrs. Anthony Weiner, when she had a top security clearance as the #2 assistant to Hillary Clinton when Hillary was Secretary of State, regularly sent copies of sensitive material to her own laptop so she could look at it at night, either knowing or forgetting that her husband had access to it as well. We know of her husband's fate and his jail sentence, which has nothing to do with this, has to do with inappropriate and criminal personal behavior. But this yet again shows the culture in the Hillary Clinton State Department of a cavalier attitude about the handling of government secrets. It also shows the FBI awareness of it. It also shows the president's frustration with it when in a tweet this morning he said, there she goes again, crooked Hillary, Jim Comey let her off the hook again. Something I profoundly agree with him on. But he should pick up the phone and call General Kelly and say, I want you to call Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein. Rosenstein's the #2 person in the Justice Department. Tell them to reopen this case and go wherever the evidence takes them. I'm not saying she should be indicted. Go where the evidence takes them. The evidence will take them to an indictment.
An indictment of Hillary Clinton?
Yes.
For breaking the law by putting classified material onto an email to Huma?
Yes, and Huma will be a witness against her. That's the way the Justice Department works. They are not bound by the ill-advised, politically motivated decision that James Comey made in the summer of, in July of 2016, not to seek her indictment.
I thought it had all gone away.
So did I. So did we. All thought it had gone away. But here's how it came out. In a Freedom of Information Act request by our friends at Judicial Watch, and the FBI coughed it up. And the Freedom Watch lawyers are looking at it and saying, we never saw these emails before. They were not part of the original trove of emails that were released. These are yet more Hillary Clinton emails that we never saw, that she swore under oath 3 times she had surrendered to the government when apparently she hadn't.
I can't resist bringing Herman into this. He's sitting there patiently waiting to go.
Remember Dragnet?
I do, as a matter of fact. We're the only people around this building who remember.
You are dating yourself.
Yes,
but wait a second.
Just the facts, man.
Hillary won't go away.
No,
will she?
will not go away. But what this shows, as Judge Napolitano laid out perfectly clear, the cover-up by the Obama administration was very clever until they got thrown under the bus recently with those additional emails. Secondly, that's certainly not going to go away. You have a new administration that wants to expose the corruption and the cover-up. Now, the other part of Hillary going away, you're right. She won't go away because she's looking for relevance, and she's not achieving it the way she thinks she is, with all of the things she's saying, all of the attacks, all of the narrative, etc. So I happen to believe that when and if the president picks up that phone, the case will be reopened like Judge says, and it's about time.
Okay. Well, you got it out there, Herman.
Yes,
I'm glad
sir.
you did. Well,
And
you've still got 15 minutes left.
The more she talks, the more the president loves it.
Yes. He's right.
And the GOP.
She's falling right into his narrative.
Yes.
And the GOP. You're right.
Loving it.
You're right.
And the Democratic elites are cringing.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton, you may have noticed, has been on the defensive about Harvey Weinstein. He, of course, contributed to her campaign, gave $250,000 to the Clinton Foundation, held a fundraiser for her. She says she's shocked and appalled by the mounting sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations against the movie mogul, except it took her 6 days to be shocked and appalled. She said nothing for that period of time while she apparently was trying to figure out what to do. This was exactly the kind of sort of hyper-cautious approach that she showed during the campaign, rather than, having the instincts to weigh right in when everybody wanted to know what she was going to say about it. So now she's continuing her book tour. She's in Britain. She did an interview with the BBC, and this is really remarkable. Naturally, she gets asked about Weinstein. Naturally, she's shocked and appalled. The Clinton Foundation has already spent the money that Weinstein donated, but she might, she told CNN, make a comparable donation to a charity. But then she tried to pivot, and this is fascinating. So she says, yeah, this is terrible, Harvey Weinstein, but we all must recognize this behavior can't be tolerated anywhere. Entertainment, politics. After all, says Hillary Clinton, we have someone admitting to be a sexual harasser in the Oval Office. So she's trying to turn the controversy from Harvey Weinstein to Donald Trump. Now, everyone remembers a year ago there was the Access Hollywood tape, chatting with Billy Bush, talking about grabbing women. Candidate Trump said that that was just locker room talk. Around that time, a number of women came out with allegations against Donald Trump, saying he'd either harassed them or groped them, all of which he denied. So it's not quite right to say that he's admitted being a sexual harasser, and to make a comparison between that and Harvey Weinstein, who's now been accused by no less than 5 women of rape and others of all kinds of physical touching and exposing himself, masturbating. I mean, you know the drill by now, more than 30 women. It just shows you that Hillary Clinton is still not done trying to continue her campaign against President Trump, and trying to get out from under being tarred with the brush of being associated with, taking money from, being a friend of Harvey Weinstein, to turn it against the president. But, elephant in the room, when she talks about a sexual harasser in the Oval Office, there was a recent president who actually engaged in that kind of behavior, and it was her husband, who got impeached over it for lying about what he did with Monica Lewinsky. You know, put aside all the other allegations, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick, There was a whole list of women. He was thoroughly investigated over Monica Lewinsky, somebody he had great authority over, an intern, later a staffer elsewhere. Doesn't that qualify as sexual misconduct, as sexual harassment? So naturally, the BBC presenter asked about this in a follow-up question, and Hillary Clinton said, well, you know, all that had been litigated. That was the subject of a huge investigation, as you might recall, in the late 90s, and there were conclusions drawn, and that was clearly in the past. So it was old news, she says. That's all she's got. She's not denying it. She says, oh, yeah, well, my husband, that's true. But that's a long time ago. All right, now, she's not running for anything. She's never going to run for office again. President Trump tweeted, I hope she runs again in 2020. That clearly that's not happening. So she doesn't have to make a comment on any of this. But if she's going to be on a book tour and talk about Weinstein and try to turn the sexual accusations against President Trump, of course she's going to be asked about the 42nd president of the United States. And it just seems like, given what she went through, I'm not blaming her for what her husband did, but given that that is part of our country's recent history not that long ago, you would think that Clinton would be a little more cautious about trying to blame Donald Trump when the very next question that any journalist is going to ask would be, what about the president that you were married to?